me. Good morning. It is 8:54 a.m. on March 22nd, 2025. Um, I woke up today and I walked into the kitchen and I saw 5:55 on the clock. Although I was woken up again out of my sleep early. I went to bed early though, so I had good sleep. And I immediately knew that today was the day and the time that I am supposed to talk about the superhero situation. And there's going to be a couple things we're going to discuss today because it all ties in together. The superhero situation, how that is connected with David Wilcock, and the Solar Flash event, the reset. That then we're going to talk about these dimensional beings of deception, okay? Sometimes known as the Anunnaki. This morning I saw Jay Widener call them the Elohim, as in, I thought to myself, the Eldar, the elder race, the ones who came before. It says that these fifth dimensional beings, like I've talked about, have never been in the third dimension. Referring to them, hi Marv. Marv says good morning in the set. Referring to them as the fallen angels, beings who went from a higher dimension down to a lower one. So from the fifth, ouch Marv, my hair, down to the third. Okay? So I'm going to grab my little chart here. I mean, I can put up pictures too, but I have my little chart. Now again, I'm not trying to sell my book. My book's not for sale at this time. But we will discuss that. I have some conflicting feelings about releasing it at this time. So we're going to go from the fifth. That's why everybody's about 5D, 5D, 5D. And then 4, and then we have 3. Okay, where we're at. 4 is the spirit realm. 5th. The 5th dimension. This is the plane of existence populated by intelligent entities. And when I'm talking intelligent, it doesn't give it enough. Like, it should be super intelligent entities that have never existed in the third dimension. They have a lot of knowledge. They know a lot. Sometimes I feel that this is why in Islam they call them the jinn, and we're talking about the same things. If you learn about that, it's very similar to what we're talking about. And when I talk about, years ago, I remember starting about this and talking about aliens, there were Muslim people who would comment and say they're not aliens, they're jinn, but I didn't understand the translation of this, like how I can put it into words for me to understand about dimensional beings at the time. I didn't know. So it says, being closely associated with the third dimension. Entities in the fifth spiritual dimension can interact with us easily, influence our thought patterns and circumstances, or the elements in our lives. In religious texts, these entities are referred to as demons or fallen angels, or jinn. There's many names for them. Now, the Anunnaki came from Zecharia Sitchin. He was one person that made a creation out of these tablets, okay? That was his interpretation of it. You gotta remember that. There's been a lot of debate about the accuracy of that translation. These are spiritual beings, beings of the mind. They influence our thoughts, feelings, actions sometimes, and even the way that we start to view our missions in life. Yes, Marv. Marv just gave a little meow. So, when I said that years ago, especially when the Archangel Michael stuff came up with David Wilcock, and I mean, I warned Corey Good about this exact same thing. Because I was like, the Anunnaki sound, the Anshar sounds like Anunnaki, and they love a play on words, these beings. They love this. Well, I didn't tell you that. You assumed that. You see what I'm saying? It kind of gets them off the hook. They're not exactly telling you things. It's almost like to mislead. Or what the magician does is to have something going on here, but make you look over here. It's tricky. That's why sometimes they're referred to as tricksters. Because they like this. It's like an intelligent mind game of chess for them. They don't have much else to do. The reason why I know this is because clearly I've had some interference over time. And due to, having different experiences from different sides and figuring out, by observation, self-reflection, and things like this, it was a process. I figured out that there is a big difference, that I read just this week that, not all spirit guides are your friends. You might think that they are, and they may appear to be, but a lot of them find their entertainment in messing with us, even if it doesn't seem like that. This is why sometimes within the new age community, which I don't really like to call it that, because really people are just trying to translate an ancient wisdom, maybe just in ways where, I mean, everyone's just trying their best, whether they realize they're being influenced or not. I mean, it is a challenge for the individual to be able to recognize this type of deceptional interference, with your divine plan that was set for you by the Creator. Okay? What's the matter, Merman? I can't let you outside, baby. You ran away twice this morning, and I had to run outside in my jacket and my nightgown at 5, almost 6 a.m. And it was probably after 6. Hey? Yes, I had to go get her twice today. So, I'm not sure how much longer I'll be able to just let her go outside, because she goes underneath the fence now, where this this place is a little bit higher since they put the fence back on. Anyway, I don't mean to get distracted. I remember. So I warned Corey Good about this, about the Anshar and the Anunnaki sphere beings. And then, I mean, you have to realize that the spheres are all these different worlds. So when Corey Good calls it the Sphere Being Alliance, basically what he's talking about is all these different worlds, okay? It's not that their information has no basis or that it's completely nonsense, tomfoolery bullshit. It's not that, but that's what most people would want you to think, because it also, these beings really, what's that called? Crossed their T's and dotted their I's with this, you know what I mean? They really covered every angle. Like, even in the Bible, it talks about people that will start to claim that they're like Jesus or whatever, but this is about like the Colostrum's oil, the Christ, or the Christ consciousness thing. So they planned for that already because they knew that people would wake up from this. It's pretty crazy. And if you read The Gods of Eden, it explains about religion and everything like that. This is why I talk about this book so often, because this is really what drew my attention to, let's just say, the situation that is the dark side of things, or the opposing force. Okay? So what the heck was I looking for in here? The Anunnaki, the spheres. Oh, that's in the back. So the spheres are like this, many worlds, okay? All of these are like spheres, different worlds, worlds within worlds. And how it says here, is it possible there is, wait, is it possible there is life on other cells? And it says, no way, you're crazy. Because that's usually how we talk in our world, right? But look at all the worlds around us. I might be able to get a picture. We will put it here. I learned how to do new stuff. So if I find the picture, which I'm going to, I don't have a good enough one here. This picture here shows about like string theory, multiverse, parallel worlds, and stuff like that. All of these are like bubbles. Okay? Now, when I first started researching the Nos Confunden stuff, on one of the first videos that I watched, it was the Night God 333. I was reading the comments and I copied down the comment and the person who said it and everything, and I put it in the video, so I saved it, and I'm glad that I did, because it was a story about this fella was telling a story about how his cousin, basically, everyone laughed at him. He's like out of the family now. Everyone thinks he's crazy. His cousin was telling this story for a while. I'm pretty sure it was the cousin. It's not really that relevant, but I will link the videos that I'm talking about below, and I'll maybe copy and paste the comment so you can read it. And it says that his cousin was out one day, walking down the road, and he came across two people that looked very foreign. And so he asked them, and they were in jumpsuits, and they were in blue, tight-fitting jumpsuits, okay? I think. But they were in jumpsuits for sure. And I thought, holy crap. You know, that sounds like the people from the Galactic Federation, like, you know? And he asks, because see, the guy was offstandish, and I'm going to explain this to you, which is my feeling about it, okay? It's not, maybe it might be a little bit of an assumption, but I'm just going to give it to you as an example, okay? Because it's important for the future. Maybe. So what he says is, he says, well, where are you from? And the male's offstandish, you can tell. But the female speaks up and says, well, we just come from another bubble, which is something you don't understand yet. Again, talking about this. Now, I'm not exactly sure how it would actually be seen. You know what I mean? Like in my book, I have a few examples here. This being like Claudio Nocelli's map with the ice walls or the barriers between worlds. But this could very much represent the barrier of life and death between these different areas of existence. It goes back to, you'll see this a lot. Like Atlantis was like this was an age. So it kind of, if you can see that, it kind of reflects out like this. This would be the known lands, then this, then this, then this, then this. You see what I'm saying? Like this. But they say this was Atlantis. But I don't think so. Then you have over here the Yugas, which is also center, boop, boop, boop. Do you see? If you look at, and I mean, this model here kind of does look like a bubble, but I don't think this is correct at all, and I never did. This is what turned me off of the whole thing, but I think it does open up your mind and perspective to be able to think about other views than the globe Earth, right? So for people that totally dismiss the flat Earth theories, what it is for, and then will I remember where it is? No, I don't need to. But I said in the book that it doesn't matter flat, round, what was it called? Infinite ice theory, infinite Earth theory, terra infinita. It doesn't really matter how you're viewing it. What matters is your ability to adapt to change and a change in perspective, because the spiritual realms are very much like that. And they will change a lot based upon your thoughts and feelings. You'll see an example of this in, I might be able to pull up pictures for this, in the Legend, Avatar Korra. It wouldn't be The Last Airbender, but it's Avatar, The Legend of Korra. It's like The Last Airbender, but she's the next one. You'll see a really good example in this. I might be able to pull it up. If I have, what you will see is Korra is in the spirit realm. These beings around her all appear friendly. She's met Uncle Iroh, who's passed over into the spirit realm, who was from The Last Airbender, okay? The TV series. So she meets Uncle Iroh, who becomes a spirit guide for her in the spiritual realms. It's not so much astral, because astral means stars and space and planets. It means the stars. So when Elena Danaan is astral traveling to Neptune, this is what that means. Where the hell was I? Oh, so with Korra, when she starts getting upset in the spiritual realm, she turns into a child because she becomes childlike, feeling vulnerable and feeling these different emotions, trying to be able to process them. She turns into a child. Now, in this scene, and again, I'm not sure if I'll be able to show you this or not, maybe, most likely. In this scene, when she gets upset, Uncle Iroh tells her she needs to calm down. She starts to manipulate the space around her. And it turns darker and the creatures become scarier. This is a reflection and a perfect example of what it means by creating your reality. Okay? So, if we've seen this clip, it is an absolutely perfect example of what I'm talking about. And visually, it really gives you a great idea of it, okay? This is what it means these entities can interact with us easily. Because where Korra was the in-between, or this place, the fourth dimension, or the spirit realm. Oh, green. Right there, in green. Number 4. Okay? 4, the fourth dimension vibrational state is what I lightly refer to as the state of confusion. It is the mysterious plane of existence closest to ours, and it is the vibration where the human spirit realm exists. This includes our ability to increase our growing ability to raise our vibration through various methods to visit the fourth dimension. A lot of this has to do in the mental plane. That's where your training and your mental exercises will occur, which later on when we start to discuss about the superpowers is exactly how you learn how to use them and how you learn how to control them and how you learn when not to use them. Okay? There's a lot. That's why I always say that with Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Okay? And a lot of that you have to deal with in the head and in the heart before that ever manifests into any way into your physical life at all. The reason I refer to it as the state of confusion is because it is this dimension that the human spirit can be regulated to following death, commonly referred to as ghosts, or transitions through between here and the third dimension, the afterlife. This is why my dream life is changing. Why you go into the spirit body and you do the training there you do because you are training for your afterlife. It is a spiritual training ground, fourth dimension. But there's a lot there. There's a lot there. There are a lot of doors. And you don't need keys for them. That's the thing. Sometimes you can just walk through, and that's why it's called the state of confusion, because you will find yourself very often confused. Nos confunden. They confused us. They sure did, the spirit realm. And this is why, when I first started all of this, that was the first thing that I heard, is that the spirit realm's tricky. And was it ever right? It is also the vibrational plane that is used by intelligence from higher dimensions. This is angels too. Higher dimensionals too. And there's a lot of times where you'll have these battles in between them. This is where this happens in the spirit realm. But because it is right on top of ours, almost like this. Please don't close the ball there. Like this. But this way. Like it says, it walks side by side us. The fourth dimension can be viewed normally by your peripheral vision, your side vision. This is why a lot of time you'll see something at the corner of your eye and go, oh, what was that? That's because this is happening in your side vision. When you see things like energetic disturbances in your environment, and this is just like a really wild guess here because of the dream experiences that I've had, especially the time when I was with those other people, and we prayed in that circle and got the entity out of that the lady with the fingers and the long black hair from the hallway. That dream, if you've read my book, this one was what I'm talking about. So you may have some interferences in the material plane. Sometimes you'll have light bulbs explode and things like this because of the energetic changes, okay? You'll have stuff like this, or flickering of lights, not just blowing up. That's pretty extreme. But sometimes you'll have this, or, I mean, this could be an electrical issue. It's not always, but you'll have different things like this. And this is why I mentioned about the Rest in Peace department with Ryan Reynolds, even though I don't like Ryan Reynolds at all. And I don't like Chris Pratt either, by the way. And it's just a weird feeling I got. And I was right about Ryan Reynolds. Everyone loved Ryan Reynolds for years. And I was like, no, I think he's an asshole. And he turned out to be one. So I just want to say for the record that I don't like Chris Pratt either. But I watched a movie with him in it just recently about a girl from Stranger Things and a robot and him. It was all right, but he sucks as an actor. He always plays the same kind of character, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the same guy from Guardians of the Galaxy everywhere. So, what the hell was I talking about? Oh, fighting in the astral plane. Police cops. No, spirit cops. Right. Rest in Peace department. So, they do, remember I said the spiritual hierarchies have different jobs? Well, how I see sometimes these Federation people or the people in the blue suits is like I call them the outer space cops, which I think is totally funny. But that's how I've always had the view of them. That's how they've appeared to me in my journey and my life. So when it's talking about this is where it comes into your dream life, where you're in your spiritual body, because you are preparing for your afterlife. Okay? This is where your spirit body comes together for your immortality, that your spirit will last forever. This is what we're talking about. I feel like I've gone all over the place, but I think now, I just got the feeling now's the time we start discussing the superpowers. Okay? What I've just discussed with you about the astral or the spiritual realms, okay? We were like this in a spiritual body before we came into these physical vessels, okay? You were this before and you will be this after. Energy does not disappear, it transfers or transitions into another state. Yes? So this is what I'm talking about. People believe that our energy, just as our body powers down, it just boom, dies like a computer. Boom, like a light going out. And in a way, I have watched death occur. The light fades from the eye and goes out. But really what is happening is the energy is retracting and going out. It's expelling. So, and you can very much feel it. You can feel from when the energy is in the body to after it's left. Okay? And of course, that is not a pleasant experience, but I saw it happen twice, so I'm fairly sure this is what is occurring. and I feel it, they're no longer there. Um, but they haven't disappeared. Shortly after Mr. Sweet Cheeks passed away, I saw him in the spirit realm and I could feel his fur and his warmth and his love still. So the energy in the spirit does pass on. He will continue on the reincarnation wheel until, and I believe that all of the animals that come into my life are on their last life as an animal and they will become human. Not all animals get to have lives with us, especially even just cats and dogs, and even if they are owned, a lot of them aren't treated very well. Even some people that tell me, "Oh, I love my pets and I take care of their cat litter is overfull with shit on the floor, and their water and food dishes are dirty, and your environment is dirty, and you leave your cat alone for 2 weeks at home by itself." So, you know, they don't all have lives like mine do, and how some people's animals are treated very well and loved like people. A lot of people don't even see animals that can be family members. So this has to do with the individual's consciousness level. Again, I realize that I am still eating other animals, which is a problem for me. I used to be a vegetarian. Because of my energy level, I haven't been able to do everything. And sometimes it takes all the energy I have just to shower and eat in a day. So it's a struggle for me, but I am trying to get back to that. I don't even really enjoy the taste of meat or whatever. Uh, it just depends. So I think sometimes everything in moderation, but I would like to get into the habit of replacing certain proteins more often. It would be nice, like I said, if I had a partner, a husband, then, we could share this type of stuff so that I could still do everything that I need to do, even in the spiritual realm stuff that I'm doing. And, you know, sometimes I'm being called, so I'll have to go to sleep and I'll be somewhere else, which I didn't actually realize. I mean, I was a little bit embarrassed to talk about this because everything that if you haven't experienced it, it will sound crazy because it's something that you don't understand and haven't experienced yet. I've gone through this feeling myself. Okay, so before I trailed off on that, I was talking about this spirit realm, the battling, and yes. So I always have my powers there for the most part. There's a lot of it that I don't remember because I am in my higher self state, so like the superhero form, or the angelic form, the greater guardian, some people would call it, um, and I won't remember. For whatever reason, I only vaguely remember some parts, okay? Because there's some people that have argued with me about this and said that it's impossible that I remember, and then they're like, holy crap, you do remember. So, I mean, there's certain things that I remember, okay? I'm not saying about, like I remembered when Usa said, hey, if you're so powerful, I remember that. And then there's different parts, where before I know that a battle happened, I will remember directly before and after, but not what happened in between. So, and I think that may be part of protection. Now, I'm not the only one. See, a lot of people have this, a lot. And what I figured was something that I was watching when I was watching a movie last night. I thought, oh, it's probably the exact same reason why I wanted to be an actor when I was younger. Because I realized that a lot of this stuff that I was remembering came from the spirit realm and that it wouldn't be in the material plane. Okay? Uh, and so what I was thinking was that, well, okay, well, if I'm never going to be like a superhero in real life, at least I can do it in the movies. This brings me back to if you see when I went, when I won the trip to see the Backstreet Boys, I prayed. I put 5 postcards in because there was 5 members of the band, and I decorated them and everything, and I prayed and I manifested that for myself every night before I went to bed. I would pray to win that trip. I would genuinely pray because I really wanted to see them in person to see if I was right about this whole reincarnation thing. Because a lot of these reasons why they have star quality is because of their solar energy, or basically their life force, their chi, their vril, their prana, what their spirit produces attracts, shines bright like a star. Yes? Good. I hope that, because I seen just shine a shining star, and so I hope that I've explained what I'm trying to talk to you about. When they say you've got star quality, people have told me this. They tried to get me into Hollywood when I was younger, but the experiences that I had turned me right off of it. And it wasn't what I thought it would be. I didn't want to do A, B, C, and D. No, I just wanted to go straight to being on the Power Rangers or whatever. You see what I'm saying? So I realized that it wasn't going to be, and it was a lot of work, and I didn't want to do work with, I didn't really like it, and I wasn't all that great at it, to be honest. I had a lot of anxiety, and I'd be really sweaty, and I wouldn't remember anything, so it just didn't work out so well. But I'm glad that I had the experiences that I did, because now I can talk to you about this today, even though it's only a small thing. It doesn't matter, because a lot of it has to do with feeling, and that goes with intuition, a gut feeling, or these energetic text messages that I would receive to the gut. Um, and it's almost like, like an invisible little telegram that lets not always when you're in danger, but it will also give you indications about certain individuals, whether they can be trustworthy or not. Okay. So when I won that trip, um, because I was remembering having superpowers, being able to shoot lightning, but it was really an energy discharge, but it looks like lightning. Or some of us could manifest fire or whatever, but this is just a manifestation of energies, okay? And the elements. It does have to do with the elements. That's why I liked the Avatar The Last Airbender, because it reminded me of a little bit of this. But that's why it goes back to in these spiritual sciences, like even if you see the pentagram or whatever, it represents the five elements: earth, air, fire, water, aether, the fifth element, right? So that's what it has to do with. There really is a science behind this, a metaphysical science that has not been acknowledged by mainstream science and has been labeled pseudoscience or silliness, and it's really not. I probably would have thought that too myself if I hadn't gone through the experiences and even the overall changes in both in all mind, body, and soul. Okay, so ever since I was young, I mean, I found the Backstreet Boys when I think I was 9 or 10 years old, and then I met Jenny around that time, and she was also saying that she remembered having past lives and stuff like this. But really, I don't know how much of that I believe from her anymore. I think that she wanted to be more like me than she actually was. I can't say that we don't have similarities, but she made stuff up. And yeah, I don't want to, of course, I have feelings about that still, but I'm telling you the truth. Like, I was the one who was always coming and saying, oh, I remembered this, and I remembered this about this and this, and she was just kind of following along, really. Um, and so it was then, and I would feel these things with certain celebrities. And I think this is why, I think and feel this is why, is because I recognize this kind of star quality with these individuals and myself. This energy thing, this life force thing. Like can recognize like almost, these powerful souls. And I believe that a lot of them were used and manipulated, that they didn't really know what they were getting into, and then by the time they realized it, it's a pretty complicated thing. We can go into detail like as much as I can about it at another time if you want to talk about celebrities and how I feel about that. And but really, I can talk about it now with myself. So it's true that a lot of the times when you have a troubled childhood, you will look for love and admiration in other places where you didn't receive it at home. It did have a little bit to do with that, being an actor. You know, Most of it had to do with, proving my parents wrong. They said I couldn't do anything like that, that I'd never be an actor, I'd never be a model, and, I'm stupid and no good and all that shit. So a lot of it had to do with proving them wrong. But again, I figured, well, if everybody see me like that, then they would appreciate me and see me and I would be loved, right? It does. It definitely does have something to do with that. So it does come from a place of lack in certain instances, like this need to be seen and loved, but it's not as pathetic and sad. I think everyone requires that in life. It's not just people like this. And it's not always the case. But a lot of the times you will recognize either an ego trip or a God complex. This comes maybe over time, though. And it's the same thing that happened with David Wilcock and the best of them. It could happen to me too. That's why I have to be careful and check myself before I wreck myself quite often. So, with that, when I met the Backstreet Boys, I knew right away. I'm like, oh, nope, we're not the same. They're not aware. They don't know. And I knew right away. But I asked them about aliens on purpose. Okay? When I went back to school, people were making fun of me. So I was like, oh no, the TV crew people told me to say that. No, they didn't. I said that on purpose because I wanted to know if in any way possible, and just by their reactions and their energy, there there was a little bit of something, but not enough. And I mean, like, what's funny is that Brian from the Backstreet Boys woke up earlier, and he was talking a lot. They were calling him the conspiracy theorist, and all the other band members were making fun of him and stuff like that. But I think that to a degree, they are aware of what they're into. You know what I mean? If not all the way now, because Nick Carter was probably the worst one. And that was my favorite one too. It's true though. I thought me and Nick Carter were gonna run away and get married, and we were soulmates. We were made for each other. I did. Everybody in the spirit realm knows it's true. The Lord's looking at me like, oh, I could feel it. You know what I mean? Like the creator. So there was no way that I could get away with not telling you that because it's true. And again, I want to be totally transparent and honest because if there is a malfunction or flaw within this programming, we will recognize it and correct it together. I'm not an MK Ultra victim, but sometimes I have to feel kind of like a robot to be able to deal with this. Yeah, I love Cosmos. I love her. Yeah, if you ever see anybody transform into that, it's probably me. Right. So that's how I have to deal with this sometimes. So if I speak like that, that's why. But I do totally understand about MK Ultra. It's tricky. Okay. So we've covered this was in my psyche ever since I was young. And yes, I understand that I was abused, but I wasn't daydreaming like you think. When I was being beaten, I would have memories about the past life, about the giant people, about the giant trees and shit like that. I was getting the shit kicked out of me, okay? Sometimes I would remember about having powers and being able to want to use them, but couldn't. And I would also struggle with defending myself. I would never violently fight back. I would defend, but I wouldn't offensively fight back, okay? But I also believe that there's a reason for that. I think it was to teach me patience, resilience, and the ability not to use them. And we are going to get there. I promise. It's only been 40 minutes. I'm doing pretty good. It took me a long time to figure this out, and I can't tell you for sure. I don't want to take it away from you because it's important. Even just the belief that it could be possible is very important, even for your own personal development. Now, I'm going to go consult the Oracle. I'm going to pause this, and I'll be right back, and then we're going to discuss about the superpowers. And we're going to, you can't remind me. I have to remember about explaining about these higher dimensionals and their telepathy, and that they're going to hear and feel and think, even if it is in the spiritual realm. And this never happens where they're saying the extraterrestrials will land one day and our civilizations will be able to meet and mix and whatever. Even if this only ever occurs in the spirit realm, you still need to know what I'm going to explain to you. I will be right back. Okay. And we're back. Right. So, superpowers, ether tech, ether manifestation. Whether you call it aether or ether, it doesn't really matter, I don't think. How I view it is that the ether is refined from the aether. So ether is what they would take out of the aether and make it into energy with their free energy technology and like Tartaria and stuff, okay? So it's almost like, refining fossil fuels, somewhat. But you're refining it, filtering it through the ionosphere. That's what I just heard in my head. I don't know if that's right or not. But, okay. So I want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever seen and heard about UFO craft that have been witnessed shape-shifting out there? That will look like something and then they'll change it to something else? This is a little bit like instant manifestation. Hi, Salem. He wants to go outside, but I can't let them outside because Marvin will run away and I have to be able to watch her now. So I'm going to let them outside after I'm done. Okay. Instant manifestation. So basically you can change your craft. It may be something, okay, so I'm seeing right now beings, these dimensional beings may be able to create different type of craft. Now, if you're thinking about simple designs, a square, a sphere is something very easy to manifest and create. A silver sphere or a square or something like that would be something very easy to maintain mentally, but also to manifest by your will of thought, okay? So this is, again, why you're seeing a lot of these extraterrestrial craft with no controls, because it's controlled totally by telepathy or thought. You're thinking and you're controlling it. It's not so much of an AI. It's like an invisible collective consciousness. Source is everywhere. So what happened to me this morning was that I was plugged in. And like how I'm going to explain it, it seems a little bit aggressive, but it's not. So we all have these spirit cords I was talking about. And when I breathe in source, this is what I'm talking about. I just have to find the picture where I know I included it in here. Where I show you where I'm on the lotus flower and how I receive information from the creator. Like this. So I know this looks a bit strange, but this is why it has the all-seeing eye. Because the all-seeing eye is source that sees all and is all. It experiences life itself through all of our eyes. Even the animals. Okay? Everything. It experiences life through that. Even things that you think don't have eyes. Okay? But this is what it is. It's a representation of consciousness. This is energy. Representing energy. Okay? But let me explain something to you. It's almost like a giant nervous system. Or somewhat I can see it as a spider web. And you are the spider. On a spider's web, when the fly lands, vibrations will be felt from a fly, right? Oh, there's something in the web. The spider knows and goes towards the vibration to get the fly. Yes? It's a similar concept like this. It's a feeling that you will get to follow. Do you understand? Along the giant spider web that is source or the collective consciousness. Like a giant nervous system spread out everywhere. If the universe is a giant body, source is the nervous system, right? It would be the main computer, but its feelers is this nervous system that is connected to the brain, right? Okay. So this is what we're dealing with when I talk about this. So when you see it being, some people will have this cord plugged in to maybe their belly button or certain areas, but it will always be attached to you. That does go to your physical vessel, but there's another one too. See, there's two here. There's the one that's the flower, and this is why they're blue and gold. Okay, if you notice that? But see, I didn't know anything about this at all. I didn't know about the lotus flower. I didn't know about how the sun with light and water, you see that's a shower? How I would always say I channeled in the shower. Well, water is also conduit. Now, I drew this back in 2018. I had no idea what I do now. I channeled these things. There's another one right above it, which I also channeled, which has to do with everything that I'm talking about on my channel. The faces of these people are mirrors, although, of course, you can't see your reflection, but that's what it is. It represents the divine masculine and feminine and the creator in you. Also having to do with the astrological significance of the planets, how they have to do with our chakras and all of that, okay? Again, here in the pyramid representing that, going from all the way up to your crown, which is your balance of dark and light, your sun and moon, okay? Purple and gold. I didn't understand any of this before. This was drawn for me by someone, and again, they had no fucking idea about the Templar cross, if you can recognize that now. Also, the dung beetle and cleaning up the shit or fixing the mess. The two flames of the sun and the moon are dark and light in the gateway. This fella didn't really know anything about that, so I believe that Source had him create this. I gave him a little bit of an idea of what I wanted, but it just came out phenomenally good. So, that's what happened when I woke up this morning, so I'm quite in tune, if you haven't noticed. So, with the instant manifestation thing, like I was saying before, it has a lot to do with your mental training. When I was growing up and through most of my life, even I was thinking like this morning when I woke up, when I was thinking about all of this, like, you know, I would often catch myself going, oh, and that's why you don't have your powers. Because, like, think of it this way. Even just over the past couple of months, you know, especially since it's turning into spring, we would have like warm days and stuff like that where there would be big ass puddles. Why did I go on to this? Why did I go on to this? About people. Darn it. Trailed off. That's probably why this has happened. Instant manifestation, telepathy. Oh, I would get intuitive feelings. So there would be cars coming, and I'd be like, nope, don't go. And then splash, you know what I mean? Cool things like that. But I can't remember why I started to talk about that. Shit. Apparently, it may not be important. So, okay. Spaceships needing mental control. I talked about the mental training ground and it's about not having okay, about my powers, right. I'll do the crosswalk. So a lot of the time, especially when I would be walking my dog years ago, people would pull right out into the crosswalk. And I'm a pedestrian, my dog, and so there's like all this traffic coming this way and the car is here and they expect me to go out around them into traffic, right? This would happen almost every single day. And eventually what I would do is I'd knock on the passenger window and I'd be like, you need to back up. I can't go into traffic. You're in the crosswalk, you know? Sometimes I wouldn't deal with it so well like that. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I would straight up scream at them. It just depends on if my anxiety was bad or not. I used to have this lady follow me with her dog. It was all this crazy nonsense downtown. So I'm not excusing it, but again, my CPTSD, sometimes you will have these reactions. Unfortunately, emotional regulation can be difficult sometimes with this disorder. So what I would think of sometimes with my powers was, and this is kind of like Hancock, and you'll see that in this movie about how he changes and realizes, that his ways were not effective nor acceptable, and even himself dishonoring himself for the extraordinary person that he was, is a character in a film. But um so if you're thinking about that, well, I would think like using my telepathy and just picking their car up and going bang, bang, or like throwing them, you know what I mean, out of the fucking crosswalk. This isn't something you'd want to do, you know. You you don't want people to be afraid of you, and if you can even just use the film as an example, the Hancock film, it's called Hancock, Hancock, and it's about this fella who is a disgraced hero. All he does is drink all day, and you can learn a lot from this, and he actually goes to jail and he stays there, and because it's about showing the people that you can be trusted. Okay. Solar beings is what they're called. Sometimes you'll hear Billy Carson say this. A lot of people will call them solar beings. It's even referred to as solar beings in The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. And he also refers to them as supermen and superwomen. So I know I'm onto something with this. I may not have had it all the way correct. Okay? But that's just the best I knew at the time. The old superhero or the Superpowers video I will unprivatize and allow people to view. I was very depressed at the time. It was something that I struggled with, and I think it was something that the opposing forces um, have used against me to keep me kind of in a lower state or feeling like a failure, that I don't have these powers and abilities anymore, okay? Um, so over time, I've had to train myself to refrain, right? But in the old video, you could tell, that it put me in a quite low state because I couldn't understand. And I mean, why I didn't have them anymore. It kind of makes you feel like a bad person. Um, but also you got to realize why I wanted them. Ever since I was young, I experienced a lot of horror in the world, and I didn't want that to happen to other people anymore. The needless suffering, I really wanted to put a stop to. And when I started to pray to the divine to send something to get rid of all the evil, well, it eventually became like, I will volunteer to do it if you haven't got anybody else. It's okay. Like, I would rather do this than put it on somebody else so that people don't have to suffer and be harmed anymore. So even though I knew that I could also use it to escape my parents, I wouldn't have killed them. I didn't even consider that until the anger took over later in life and I would start envisioning using my powers to turn them to dust. Yes, with the energetic discharge. Now, I remember years ago, you remember the lady who did the raw channelings, Carla something or other. She has, or had, rather, she's passed now, had a husband called James Gilliard or something. He's still going on. He has As You Wish talk radio, I believe. Trying to pull it up from my files. um, and he was doing lectures similar to most of these UFO disclosure people. And I watched one years ago where he talked about having these powers and it being an energetic discharge, and I almost fell over in shock. And it never left me because I never heard anybody else talk about it that way before. I kept this to myself later on in life. When I was younger, I got laughed at and teased and made fun of, and people thought I was weird and crazy, so I just stopped talking about stuff. You know what I mean? When I was like 9, 10 years old, or I can't remember when I was at my grandma's house. It may have been a little older because I remember I was wearing these black and white pants that I borrowed from Jenny. And so it was definitely after the age of 10 that I'd known her. So I think I was about 12. Fuck, I don't know. I really don't remember about the age, but I do remember that I was at a family gathering and I turned around to my family and I thought that everyone was going to be like, oh yeah, that was a terrible thing. Like they would just know that this was a thing. And I was like, oh, there used to be people on Mars, but they blew themselves up. I told that to everybody and they laughed at me. And I was like, that's not very funny, you know? Uh, and it was a really confusing time. So it's difficult because like I want to go over this as thoroughly as possible because I've heard all the naysayers. It's CPTSD, it's imagination, it's this and that, wishful thinking, blah 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 blah. The way that you dealt with your pain, blah 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 blah. I've heard it all, and I've gone over that. But there's more to it, and that's why I'm telling you these things because I tried to let it go, and it came back with like a vengeance. You know, it wouldn't let me forget, and that's how I got here today. So the abilities in the spirit realm for me are still there. And I think and feel that because now I'm in a physical body and in a different state of existence, where I was in another existence for so long, that's probably extremely difficult to adjust to. Okay? About the past life stuff with giants and shit like that. Now I realize that this was probably an earlier reincarnation of me. You know? I mean, not just now, but I mean, I've realized over time, an earlier reincarnation of me during these past civilizations where these giants existed. Why I was different and why I was smaller, I'm not sure exactly, but I think it has to do with the experimentation and different things that were going on back at that time. What I can't figure out is if, and it seems to be, it really does, but you got to remember these are intelligent entities of the mind that we're dealing with, and I've done a lot of research historically, you know, even in the ancient aliens thing, they kind of took it because you got to remember this. This is the most important thing. Ancient Egypt was all about the spirit realm. They didn't worship the sun, they worshipped the power behind it. Almost like the life giver. It's a visual representation, symbolic of the divine creator. But they didn't worship the sun because the creator has no actual form. Like I was just telling you, it's like a energy spread out everywhere and in everything. They had to give it something. And this is the light that shines, gives life to all. I mean, it's a very good symbol of the creator, the life giver. So, but with Ancient Aliens, they took it like there were these beings that came down. Larger beings can represent a higher consciousness, yes, but they might have been working with them in the spirit realm. Their ancestors and their spirit guardians, and and they put this on the walls for it to be remembered. Because they didn't want us to forget the spirit realm, but we did anyway. So that's the thing about it. And with them pushing all of this narrative, it makes me wonder if they will. I mean, what it indicates is that there's like this disaster or a reset time or the cycle ending, and then these beings come down after a huge depopulation event where the humanity's lower. Even Dolores Cannon was saying that these beings won't come down until the population's been lowered. I can go and find it all. It might take me a little bit, but this is why I'm confident to say what I have to say, because I've heard it over and over. The calling thing used to be talked about by Corey Good years ago, and when I first heard about it, that's what I said. That thing Corey Good used to talk about? Yes. So, with the sun and the moon, because this is very prevalent, and there's something that I saw on Jay's channel. It has to do with some cross, and the sun and the moon is on that. I'm not sure if it's the sun we have to worry about rather than the moon we have to worry about. This is why. Long time ago, when I heard about the flood theories, one of the things that came to my mind was what has an influence on our oceans, the tides specifically, or the waters of the body. That's why they call it lunacy when the moon is full, because even the moon has effect on our bodies. So, to create a worldwide flood, what would you do? You could just move the moon. They said that at one time the moon wasn't there. Well, it could have been placed there to stabilize the environment. We've seen this, and I mean, yes, it could be just nature in the cycle of events. Time events where everything has its time and its ending. But with the example of the dinosaurs, gone. But there's been many more after that, you know? History repeats, it just doesn't repeat always in the same way. It normally never does, but it will repeat in a similar fashion that seems like deja vu. It just won't be the same circumstance with the same people or what's around you, the surroundings, like our world now as it is. Other worlds have fallen and been buried. So, I mean, I learned recently that David Wilcock used to teach about this, and that there is something called the etheric body, or our solar body, spirit body, and this does live on, and you will have superpowers if you know how to use them. I mean, you probably, the whole point of keeping people back is like this in here, is that you'll keep getting reincarnated. So if you think, oh, I'll be fine, Jesus is coming and blah blah blah, no, you're going to be reincarnated into this matrix again. they have so many traps set up for that, and this is the reason why. So again, this is just another, I think, with the whole disclosure and aliens and keeping you away from the spirit and the divine creator. It has nothing to do with religion. It just has to do with your spiritual source, your flame from the divine flame. And that's what I've noticed. And so if they have these things like, oh, okay, well, Ascension's going to come, you're all going to get superpowers, and we're going to blah, 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 blah. Well, you won't really have to do very much. You'll just wait for Ascension in May, won't you? And that's what they've done for many years. Or the aliens are going to land at this date and time. Well, okay, then everything's going to be fine then. You see what I'm saying? There is this element of waiting for a savior in some shape or form. But they won't tell you about the Claustrum's oil or the journey of the Christ and what the 3 days of darkness is. In fact, the 3 days of darkness is when this seed or this little spark that rises up to the crown, these fluids mix together, and I think they turn gray as well. So that might have something to do with Grayskull. One is golden honey color, the pituitary and the pineal gland. There are these glands, these oils that travel up the spine. The 33. Today is 3/22, which has to do with Skull and Bones, if you don't know that. That is a secret society. This is one of the things I pulled up. Forgot about this. And the 13 most powerful members of the Skull and Bones, I was reading about, because I was like, isn't George Bush one of them? Yes. George Bush, and as a long line, okay, let me see. Each year, only 15 juniors are tapped or chosen for lifetime membership in the club. These are the chosen ones. These are the people that believe they're the only ones that deserve to survive this reset. They're sometimes known as Zionists. Wow. You have to divulge your intimate personal details, including their full sexual histories, before they're inducted. Wow. I'll link this article that I'm reading. William Howard Taft, one of them, honorary title of Magog. Magog and Magog comes from Islam. Gog and Magog. Walter Camp, Lyman Spitzer. After 44 years, a noted astrophysics Spitzer, whose member Secret Society Skull and Bones, dreamed up the idea of the Hubble Space Telescope, the first method to observe space uninhibited by the Earth's atmosphere. He also lobbied NASA and Congress for funds and oversaw production of the actual machine. After 44 years, NASA launched the Hubble into space. The Hubble remains there today, providing stunning images of the universe, making new discoveries. NASA named this Spitzer Space Telescope in his honor. So there's a list of them. Potter Stewart, McGeorge Bundy. Oh, he looks like a curious fellow. Before becoming one of JFK's wise men, Bundy may have relied on Big Brother to help him get into Skull and Bones. They all were. They were all secret society members, all of them, even the Kennedys. I have pictures of them doing the secret Freemason handshake shit. Before Bush became the second Bonesman to occupy the Oval Office, he was also a pilot for World War II. This George Herbert Walker Bush. The asshole and the idiot son is George W. Bush. So, not good. Today, I'm not exactly sure why 3/22 is Skull and Bones, but for some reason, John Kerry, class of 1966, a former Secretary of State and Senator, Massachusetts. Kerry spent a childhood abroad as a diplomat before attending Yale and gaining membership into Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones is one of the most shadiest, shittiest, lowest societies. Like, they are fucking gross. You understand me? I just read to you that you have to divulge your entire sexual history. Fucking weird. These people are weird, and I don't care. They're weirdos. Anybody that needs to join into this is an ego boost. Oh, look at us. We are the chosen ones. We are so fucking smart. Ooh, we are the best. These people are crazy, and they don't know they're evil. That's another thing. Evil doesn't normally know it is. It thinks it's right and good and the best and chosen and the way, I swear. Yeah. And you're like, this is why I think it was Carrie who was like, we're the saviors of the world. Wasn't it him that says that? Yeah, well, this is why. Um, it all has to do with these stupid secret society members. Unbelievable. But I wanted to mention that because, yeah, George Bush is one of them. And I mean, these are all the most powerful families. And, like, these are the people that are going to Antarctica and, like, claiming to meet with these higher societies and stuff like that. Like, if this is the case and this is the type of people that they like, we are fucked. And this is why, in this book, William Bromley says that to make negotiations with this galactic higher custodial race is like negotiating with your Nazi SS guards. That went well most of the time. Okay. So this is the type of people we're dealing with, and it has to do with deception. I mean, even within these, they like to lie to each other in these secret societies and try to be smarter than one another and confuse each other so they don't get there. Everybody wants to be number one and the top. And that this is what you see with David Wilcock too, is like he really like he's probably think he's gonna get these superpowers and stuff and like show everybody and that's in part two of my talk about the Dark Alliance, is that I talk about how not everybody turns out like I did with the CPTSD. In fact, a lot of the times after I go, into therapy and these doctors and stuff, my last doctor had told me that she's surprised that I'm not on hard drugs and alcohol. I'm not showing off or anything. Everybody has their flaws with it. I'm not perfect, but some people take certain things to heart. And at one time, especially with the culling, it was a way the world would be better for a lot of us, but including me, after a cleansing. And that's again, I'm gonna say like I was saying before about these fifth dimensional interference, okay? It just wouldn't be logical. If everybody got superpowers all at once, imagine the chaos it would create. Even if it were to happen to me on that day, I think the one thing I would do is go and find these people to talk to them. Not to harm them, but just to talk to them and be like, like, what's going on? What's the angle? Like, why were you telling people, I mean, it was right, he was right about, if this ascension thing were to happen in May, let's just say. But I don't know if people actually think about this stuff. Like, is David Wilcock even prepared for the outcome of that? Do you know how many people would be wanting to go and find him? Are you going to be able to defend yourself? Because there's going to be people who aren't going to be friendly. And then, even if I was going to go there, there might be about 15 people waiting there to protect David Wilcock. Do you see what I'm saying? So the chaos of it, and especially if people are not trained to be responsible with it, we're going to have way worse than Hancock. So it just wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't be logical, even if that's what happened in my last life, which I do not believe so, because I always was like that. It's not just one day these powers came online. We always had them. So, and like I explained, it changed over time. But I think that's just how it felt in the mind of where we were different from others. And so it kind of gives you like a superiority complex, I suppose. Um, it does this to people in the modern day, though. They get a hold of this esoteric stuff and these secrets, and they think that they're a fucking super genius and better and above everybody else. But that's really not what it's supposed to do. You know, this is meant for all. And just because someone hasn't achieved climbing this mountain as far as you have doesn't make them lesser than you, which really turns it around to make me feel like they are the profane. It was them that the ancient wisdom should have been kept out of its hands. Kind of screwed that up, but you get what I mean, right? They shouldn't have gotten a hold of it. They're the profane. Look what they've done. And then they sit around and talk about how stupid we are when they've done it to us. So, I mean, the reason why I'm mentioning George W. Bush, like, do you really think that guy is super smart and like a fantastic fella? No. And these are the type of people we're dealing with. They think they're the smartest, though. They think they're the best, that no one's better than them. It's that's what makes them dangerous. That's why they're dangerous, because they are crazy in this way. And it happens over time, over the lines, of being told like this and everybody keeping their noses in the air and this bloodline thing. It's really, really gone in a weird fucking way. And this is why Manly P. Hall had said, the ways in which they hide the mysteries is highly unusual. And when you said that back in the day, this was an insult, okay? This isn't something that people took lightly. It was, ooh, gossip. Oh, do tell. I've said this before. That's talking shit. So that's what we're dealing with. And what I realize is this morning, there is in these societies, I guess there's different degrees or levels. We know this about the Freemasons, but different titles, different takes, people are different roles they're playing. And I found out one of the roles, ding, is storyteller. And that's how we have these people that are taking spiritual education and putting it into a story format. I forgot about that part. So we have a extremely high degree of interference from so many sides, it's ridiculous. It's not just light and dark anymore. There's every color in between, with all kinds of different agendas and purposes and what they want. But there's a huge list for these certain secret societies who want a culling, a cleansing, and a reset. And on the list of it, there was a Druid society, which reminded me of Elena Denon. And I put all this information out before. I know I did, and I regret more and more deleting my Telegram channels as often as I did. But I'm going to find it again. Yeah. And so they'll distract you with stuff that seems good. Oh, the aliens are going to land. You can have an alien boyfriend, or, blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is, you're going to get superpowers, or it's to keep you from finding out the actual shit that's going on. But it's not something that you can look for on the outside. The only reason how I figured this out is by going within. I mean, on the outside stuff helped, but I went within. And that's how I figured all of this out, put it together, connected it. When I was younger, I used to call this future connections, and now I see how it's relevant, how it manifested itself into my reality, because I didn't actually understand what that meant back then, but now I do. So when David Wilcock talks about initiation, I'm not sure, okay, Because you don't actually need to be initiated by anyone. Because we have these fifth dimensional entities that will do it. On your personal self-initiation. They'll guide you along the way. But you got to remember that not all your spirit guides are your friends, okay? That they will disguise themselves as this. This is why David Wilcock thinks he's channeling Archangel Michael. He's not. It most likely is his lower doppelganger, because I'm telling you right now, you will go through a period of thinking that it is superior to you when it's not. It's part of you, but not superior to you. And you will kind of look up to it because it is a greater and higher part of your consciousness, okay? And we're going to talk about the Asura in my next installment because it's almost an hour and a half long and I got to wrap this up. So, with the ego and the money and the power, so these people will, I like to call it master baiters. And I'm going to put the word up here, not actual masturbation, master baiter. And actually, that an ascended master is someone who had kind of completed the game here and rose to the higher dimensions or whatever. So that's basically what they're saying is, if you're dealing with these ascended masters, it doesn't exactly mean, because as you've seen in the fifth, it goes 5 is demons and then 6 is angels. So it is in the higher vibrational frequency realm. Like, even though you'd think that it's lower in density, and it is, it can also sound a higher tone at a pitch. So it's 7 going up and 7 going down, but it also has to do with sound. You know? I'm not very good at that. That I haven't sang in years. I used to, though. Pretty good at it. If I trained my throat, I quit smoking and stuff like that, and I mean, I probably still do it now, but my throat's gonna be sore after. Okay. The superpower thing. Solar beings. It may have something to do with the sun. This is why, you know, with certain, what's that? Solar flares and stuff, you can see people having different body reactions because the electromagnetism of the outside affects the inside. Okay? I said that, you know, a lot of this has to do with belief because it does. A lot of this has to do with believing without seeing, and then seeing is believing. There's two different things because before I saw the craft, I always believed they were out there, and then when I saw it, I definitely knew and believed for sure. You see what I'm saying? Something. I don't know who was on it, but there was that craft that I saw with my waking eyes in this body like I'm talking to you now. I got up off my couch and I saw it in the sky, okay? So we have that, which is a manifestation in this physical realm. I saw it with these eyeballs. Was it etheric sight and I was seeing into the spiritual realm? I don't know. But I saw it with these eyeballs just like I'm talking to you right now. When I first started putting out the story about me seeing my Asura in my room and it being of unknown origin, I fucking thought it was an alien at first. But people were saying it sounds like you saw a ghost, and they were more right. It wasn't a ghost, but it was more right, and this is why I had this energetic change, the density, the hair going up on the arms, this feeling, you know. Yes, it was a energetic change in the physical space, almost like something, another layer came over like this. And so what I'm wondering is, are we going to have this crossover point where the ether returns? Because this is the one thing I noticed when I got here. Something was missing in the air. I couldn't pull it out of the air with my body anymore. But I realized that with the technology in Tartaria, with the ether tech and stuff, this is what they were doing with machines. But we used to be able to do this with our bodies. Okay? So I'm not sure by the end of this, like I said, I can't tell you yay or nay. You see? Because there's evidence of it, but because of all of this confusion and deception, it's very difficult to determine, you know, what the actual bottom line factual truth is. But here I've tried to give you everything I can. I'm just trying to think of anything else. I mentioned the instant manifestation. Now we've seen the turkey UFO, which you can see beings on the inside of it. It still makes sense to me. Like, and I'm not trying to say that he's right or whatever, but this whole thing, I mean, there may be a bubble or a barrier which does prevent us energetically from passing through. But, I mean, they could be coming from somewhere else in outer space, but even you see them dimensionally pop in and out. Why would they need to go through outer space if they could do that? Like, just pop in and out of the dimensions. So, this is what leads me to, I'm thinking, when Elena Danaan said that there are beings on Jupiter, but in another dimension. So, I don't know. I can't tell you. Like, I can say that there is this higher galactic force, these breakaway civilizations, or like this secret space program. But because of all of the bullshit, it's just very difficult to determine. Because I've never seen, like, I've never got to shake their hand and talk to them. And, I've only gone so far with this, and other people that said they've gone further turn out to be fraudulent. They're lying, or they're exaggerating, or they're making stuff up, or, blah, 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 blah. Or it really does have to do with the spirit realm stuff. So, or astral travel, again, is in this spiritual body. I mean, there is a process within your spiritual training that has to do, like what I was talking about, how I remembered all these different dreams. Not all dreams are dreams, okay? This is your spiritual training. And this is why, again, David Wilcock loves those pajamas, because that's probably one of the astral or lucid dreams where he saw himself in the clothing that he went to bed in. And this is a common thing. This is why I was naked a lot of the time. I'm not showing off. I didn't know that, this was actually spirit body travel and people were seeing me this way. But you will see naked people out there, and this is why. Yeah. So there's a very deep spiritual aspect to this. But I think that what sells, because people don't really care what comes in the afterlife. It doesn't help them now, today, in this life. So that's a lot of the reasons why the spiritual realm has been kind of forgotten about, pushed aside anyway, and they're a little bit pissed off about that. God damn, I have to get the tea stain out of this cup. Sorry. I didn't use the sponge and scrub it. I should have. I washed it, though. Okay. Have I forgotten anything? Well, I tried to warn these people like David Wilcock, Elena Danaan, Corey Good. I don't know about Helen Morris with Claudio Nocelli. I just don't know. Again, if these beings are telling you that this is a good idea, I don't know. I don't know if I'd agree, but hey, to each their own, because I'm tired of, I'm just tired of it. Yeah, there is this level of infiltration, unfortunately, and it's with people that you just don't expect, because I don't think they expected it. They may not have started out this way. This is why I want to say and point out, when Ishmael Perez got up that day and decided that he would tell everybody that Elena Danaan was killed and replaced with a clone. Well, she wasn't, but there was a definite change. I saw it too. And I think a lot of people did see it, and that's why they kind of followed along with it, because they noticed something had changed. But this has to do with the ego and the money and the power and how it goes to your head. Now she's an ambassador. Now she speaks for this. It affects you. Money and power corrupts, absolutely, or whatever that was. It's true. Yeah, you have to be very careful, and it's happened all throughout history. Power needs to be shared. It cannot be held alone. It always corrupts. Do you remember Galadriel with the ring? All shall love me and despair. Ooh, ooh, I'm going into the West. I've passed that test. You know what I mean? Remember that? That. No one could resist the Ring of Power. Even in the end, Frodo couldn't throw it in. It was Gollum, and jumped in, because he knew it would end his suffering too. I'm taking you with me. Yeah, he was truly the hero of the film. Yeah. So I need you to remember these things, that they are lessons. It doesn't matter if it's a story. The Bible was also the moral of the story. Sorry, symbolism and allegory, it was the moral of the story that counted. Just like with all these stories, remember Galadriel. I might be able to put that in here as well. Korra, Galadriel. I'm going to have to review this anyway. I really hope that you've enjoyed this installment. If there is any more needed, if you have any questions, if I've forgotten anything, please comment and we can talk about it more below, because this is something important that needs to be discussed, so that people aren't sitting around like me, depressed, waiting for their superpowers, okay? Because this is where I will leave you. My superpowers now, today, are this mind and heart and soul, this vessel I am today. This is my power. These are my superpowers in this realm. And this is why people use art, stories, music. This is how we show who we are on the inside to the outside now, whereas before it was expressed differently. Look what I can do. I can turn into this, 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 and this. Watch me blow this shit up. Watch me do this. It was different before. Now we have different expressions because we are in a different state of existence. And this is why they say music and art and all of this film influences us and our culture and societies. This is why. And why a lot of these actors love to be in TVs and they love to play the good guy and all of that. It's what they wish they could be. Or maybe what they were at one time, but no longer. Okay? So this is my superpower now. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I certainly do. Because, to be honest with you, it's pretty exhausting being a superhero if you think about it. Everyone would be trying to hurt everyone you know and love. You'd never be safe at any time. Somebody would always, especially if other people had powers, somebody would always be trying to look for you. It was like this in the end. That's why nobody slept, because we were always afraid someone was going to kill it. Someone was going to come and kill us. Yeah. So this vessel and my hardware might be a tad bit damaged, but I'm still functioning. And if anything, what one of my spirit guides, who I call Linus Lady, she told me that, and she said it this way, but not the actual devil as in darkness or opposing force. She said the twin flame thing, or like this true love thing, has been one of the greatest weapons used against me by the opposing forces. So I really need to figure that out, because if truly by now, if Claudio Nocelli has no idea who I am, then this is these 5D dimensional entities interference. I mean, I heard the guy say my name 3 times to wake me up for work. Yeah. And I talk about that in my long ass video about it. It's just so uncomfortable. Oh, I could talk about many other things, but love and all of that is a huge thing for me. Like, I have such a difficult time. The video's 2 hours long because I had such a hard time. Yeah. So there. We've talked about the superpowers. I've told you everything I can think of at this time. And you know what? On days like today, try to do like 322 with the skull and bones thing. Like, love, unconditional love, compassion, staying in a higher vibration, good thoughts, happy thoughts, logical, healthy thoughts are what helps, you know, because worrying about them doesn't help anything. But be aware that they exist and they are actively working against this every single day. Planning, plotting. I already know that they have tried to start something to stop me from speaking. And it isn't going to work. I already feel it happening. And it has been. They're trying to create some type of thing to stop me. And it will not work. No matter what it is, it's not going to work. So, I mean, even this is the craziest thing, even if, say, this is like such a paranoid, it's just a theory, okay? Even, say, they sent Claudio Nocelli to me to try to, like, you know, love bomb me and do this, blah, blah, and then, like, break my heart or something to, like, devastate me or whatever, it's not going to work. I promise you it's not going to work. I'll know. I'll know right away. There's, like, secret societies that deal with astral travel, and one of the symbols is a sun. Yeah. You can see that on my Telegram. I posted it up. And there's a couple of them. There's certain signs that represent the Pleiades, Orion. There's one, and I think that's why Elena Danon's like, Elon Musk is on our side, is one of us. Yeah. Yeah, go look. It's all these secret societies. They think they're cool doing this. This is what makes them feel good. They're showing off to the other members, too. So when they use the 333 and this play on words, they're showing off. Like, look what I can do. Yeah. I have to sell books. But that's what they're doing. They're selling books, but it's at the expense of others. Prosperity at the expense of others. Like I talked about at the end of, I showed you at the end of the Initiates of the Flame with the black grail. It's the money symbol, the upside down grail, and it says prosperity at the expense of others. That's them. Yeah. So there. And they gave the middle finger to all of us. And this is my middle finger back to them. Bye.